Hi guys, welcome back to Flora Fun and Food. Today is already hot and humid, but I have been putting off this project for far too long. This is my front flower bed that I had a couple of years ago, and it looked beautiful, and now it looks like garbage. So we are going to fix it. I actually added too much soil to the top of it, and I couldn't put enough mulch because then it was touching my siding and it would have rotted and things like that. So I need to dig this out, bury the bottom row of paver stones here, and make it even with this other one over here, if you can see that. And then I need to kind of till up the soil, get it ready for planting, mulch it, all of that. So it's already hot, already humid, but we're gonna get this done. So I started off by putting a 50-gallon trash bag into one of my trash barrels for the weed barrier, put on my gloves, and started moving all of the paver stones away from the border of the flower bed. I did this because when I first built this, I used each of the paver stones as kind of an anchor for the weed barrier. Then I started ripping up the weed barrier itself. Luckily, I only put a few staples here and there, so it wasn't too bad. The only issue I ran into was all of the slits and cuts that I made for the plants that I had. Kind of made it hard to keep everything together. Then I started working on the last chunk of weed barrier, and I ended up having to pull all of the weeds out that had kind of taken over that corner there in order to pull it up. But I eventually got it and threw it all in the trash. I've only done the weed barrier so far, like pulling it up, and look how sweaty I already am. It is so hot, but we're gonna get it done. Then I used this corn scoop to kind of get the easy top layer off. It was just kind of all the wood chips and the weeds and kind of the loose debris. Then it was time for a break. Okay, break time's over, time to get back to work. Also ignore the red spots on my chest. I got poison ivy, go figure. I'm pretty sure I got it from the mulch when I mulched the top of my buckets. It is what it is, so ignore it, let's move on. Then I got to work with this garden claw to hand till all of the kind of caked on compressed dirt. Otherwise my shovel was never going to get through it very easily. And I threw it all in this new garden cart that I got off Facebook Marketplace. After that, the sun had started to come out, so I decided to put on my ridiculous, according to my husband, garden hat that has a ponytail hole, but it's my favorite thing. I got a nice drink and then got back to shoveling. Once the cart was fairly full, I decided to go ahead and take it to the backyard to compost it. Back to the front. Then I got back to work shoveling and hand tilling some more. This took me quite a while since it was all by hand. We decided not to get any of the machines, like a digger or a tiller or anything like that. So this was hard work and sweat and just, manual labor. On my way through the garden, I noticed my strawberries have been eaten by squirrels. The rain is supposed to come in about an hour and a half, so I'm hoping I can get done digging out all of this dirt by then. And then my dad agreed to help me tomorrow morning by borrowing his truck and going to get mulch and finishing up the flower bed. I also have some giant elephant ears to plant, so we'll either get those planted today or tomorrow, but the goal today is to get done digging the dirt before the rain comes and possibly getting the paver stones back where they should go so they don't kill the grass that they're sitting on right now. But if that doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And we're just gonna go with the flow and finish up whatever we don't get done tomorrow. And so I continued on shoveling. It was a lot easier after I had kind of hand-tilled everything to scoop off the top layer. I did hit a few patches that were really compacted that I had to kind of dig out, but other than that, the tilling really did help me kind of move a little faster. Oh, it's so heavy. That was heavy. Now this side of the bed was kind of the lower part of the ramp that goes up my patio basically. And so I didn't have quite as much dirt there, but I wanted to kind of get everything level so that when I put in plants and mulch and all of that, it was all symmetrical and even. Starting to get cloudy. Uh-oh. I think the rain's coming. So I tried to move just a little faster in order to beat the rain so I didn't have to shovel heavy, wet dirt. The only thing I don't like about this cart is that it's not shaped like a wheelbarrow, like there's no angle on the end, and so it kind of makes it difficult to dump out. This is exhausting. The worst part is dumping it. It's so heavy. I think I could do digging all day, but dumping it is another story. My teacher brain kicked in here and I started thinking about how Stanley Yelnats from the book Holes must have felt digging holes every day. I can smell the rain coming. I really wish my students would have just one chance to dig a hole, because we read that book every year and I really don't think people understand how hard digging is on your body and just how exhausting it can be. And so I may have to show them this video and just tell them it took me, 3 hours to dig this little flower bed. At this point, I saw the Amazon truck come up, so I went and got my package from him and continued digging on the final stretch of the flower bed. Fast trip? Please ignore the blue tarp on my lawnmower. I just had to get it in out of the rain. Okay, we have officially taken all the loads of dirt to the compost bin, and just in time because it's starting to sprinkle. All right, guys, welcome back to day 2. It is raining, but we're still gonna get it done today. So before my dad gets here, I'm gonna go ahead and put the weed barrier down just so that step is done, and we can hopefully get the mulch down fairly quickly so that it doesn't get really heavy with rain. But we're gonna get it done today, and my dad is awesome for helping me. So let's get started. So I started out by kind of just leveling out the, I would say dirt, but it was kind of mud at this point. Then I realized I hadn't dug the trench for the paver stones yet, so I got to work on that first before my dad got there, hoping that I could get the weed barrier also done, but as you can see, that didn't happen. So I was gonna do weed barrier until I remembered I had to dig the stone path out, so I've been digging. Hi, Father.
You need to find a lightweight hobby.
Nah, that's no fun. All right, my dad and I are on our way to the mulch place to go pick up our first load of mulch. Now that it is raining super heavy, it's gonna be a fun day. So the place I go to is called Missouri Organic Recycling, and they have all kinds of things, including mulch and dirt and compost and fertilizer, and it's all kind of at like a bulk discount price. So you have to go up to the window and kind of tell them what you want, pay for it, and then you go and park by the mulch piles and they bring it to you. So we forgot to take the cover off the truck bed. Oops. I always find this part so much fun to watch. I just admire the people who can work these machines, because I would be horrible at it. But I also think it's super cool. Look at the truck bed. You can see that it starts to sink under the weight. Okay, now it's time to level this out a little bit and try and get the cover back on. Black stuff gets all over your hands, and it comes off with Dawn dish soap. So if you couldn't hear me there, I said that the dye from the mulch gets everywhere, but a worker there gave me a tip one time that it does come off with Dawn dish soap, and he was right.
Put these on. Now we can try to line up the screws.
Made it fit, and we're off. Headed back home. Once we got back, I raked away some of the extra dirt that I had kind of jumbled up after digging, and then I got to work on setting down the weed barrier and securing it with staples. This weed barrier helps just prevent weeds from growing in your soil, or it just makes it easier to pull them up if they do happen to show up. This piece here was just a leftover chunk I had from another project, and it was too short, so I ended up moving it to the other side, and it fit perfectly, and so I just needed one more little section, and that was that. Weed barrier is probably the easiest part of this project so far.
I had leather.
Well, we're not that fancy here.
Just don't kill me wearing these. Have a reputation up on it.
Oh, okay.
All right. My suggestion is start at that end so you know exactly where to make your turn.
Okay. So after my dad was done complaining about the gloves I gave him, we got to work on the shorter end and made the curve how I wanted it. I do end up with kind of a weird little half section that just doesn't look quite right here at the end, but I'll just cut one of my other stones in half and place it there eventually. But for now it's good. Then it was time for a break. After our quick break, we started raking and shoveling the mulch out of the truck bed and evening it out in the flower bed. My dad kept moving the truck just to make it easier on us to scoop it out, level it out, and move on. Once we got all of the mulch that I thought we needed into the bed, I really took my time to make sure that everything was spread out evenly, that it was the right depth, things like that, and not touching my siding. That was my biggest thing this time. Then I went around and stamped everything down just to flatten it and make it look nice and pretty and smooth. Once that flower bed was done, we moved on to I call it my Hosta Bed, because it mostly has hostas in it and now has a lot more things, but it was originally just hostas. This had red mulch in it to begin with, and I just really wanted to make everything match. The mulch was also quite a few years old, so at this point it was just kind of really faded. It was decomposing, it was crumbling. A lot of the things that I unearthed was just red, dusty powder. There was really no solid wood chip left underneath, kind of just a very small, thin top layer. And so I got all of that mulch out. My dad helped me by just shoveling it into the wheelbarrow. And then we got to work on scooping out the black mulch and laying it all around. Now this definitely would have been easier if I had done this in the fall before all of the hostas and ferns and flowers and things popped up through the mulch, because then it would have just been like the front flower bed and it was just flat and could have been so much easier, but I didn't plan it very well. So then any mulch we had left over, I decided just to throw in that larger mulch area around my big tree. My original plan was to weed this really well, see all the things popping through and all the oak little twigs and leaves that had fallen down. I was going to clean this up, and then my hope was to go get another cubic yard of mulch in the truck bed while I had my dad's help in the truck. But we were so tired and it was so rainy that we just decided to throw any extra mulch we had down. We would do another load another day, and just kind of call it quits, because we had been working for probably 3 hours at this point. And so as my dad cleaned out his truck, which I felt bad because he had just washed it yesterday, but he rinsed it out, and while he did that, I took the mulch to the compost that we dug out of the red bed, and then I put the tools away. Once everything was back in its place, I went and got the hose and rinsed off the porch and the paver stones and the mud that I had smeared on the wall by touching it, just to kind of get a better look at the final product. Final results. I did not get to weed this like I wanted to, but that'll just be a project for a less rainy day sometime. Well guys, we finally finished. It has been pouring, we're pruny, we're dirty. It's time for a shower, but we did get it done. Thanks for your help, Dad.
You're welcome.
Bye guys.